What if the biggest financial mistake of your life isn't something you did, but something you avoided doing? Most people think poor decisions ruin their future, but the truth is far quieter. It's the decisions you postpone, the conversations you avoid, the risks you never take, the opportunities you tell yourself you'll get to someday. Inaction feels safe at the moment, but over 10 years, it becomes the most expensive choice you'll ever make. Not just in money, but in confidence, identity, freedom, and time. So let me ask you, when you look back on your last decade, what did waiting truly cost you? Today we're uncovering the hidden cost of inaction, the truth most people only understand when it's already too late. Let me share a short story. Once, in a quiet village nestled at the foot of a mountain, lived a man. For 10 years, he walked the same path every morning, past an old wooden bridge he always avoided crossing. The bridge wasn't broken, it wasn't dangerous, it wasn't even far from where he needed to go. But each day, he told himself, "Not today. I'll cross it when I'm ready." Over time, the village grew, people changed, opportunities shifted. But the man's path stayed the same. And although nothing terrible ever happened to him, something strange did. He began to feel heavier, slower, older, not in his body, but in his spirit. He didn't know why, but he always felt stuck on the side of the river he refused to cross. One morning, something happened on the other side of that bridge, something that would have changed his entire life, if only he'd been there. Keep watching, because as we move through this video, you'll begin to understand what truly happened to the man in the story and how the hidden cost of inaction can quietly shape, strengthen, or even shatter your life and your financial future. And if you're new here, I invite you to subscribe, not just to follow a channel, but to follow the journey that's meant to support your next decade. Now let's start with the first hidden truth about inaction. Most people believe that waiting is harmless, that postponing a decision is simply giving themselves more time. But what they don't see is that inaction isn't neutral. It has a cost, and it begins quietly. At first, delaying a decision feels protective. You convince yourself you need more clarity, more confidence, more stability before you move forward. You say, "I'll start when things calm down, when I earn a little more, when I feel ready." And because nothing bad happens immediately, you believe you made the safe choice. But the truth is, the first cost of inaction is internal. You begin to doubt your ability to take charge of your life. You lose small pieces of confidence each time you avoid a step you know you need to take. This erosion is subtle, but powerful. It shapes your identity more than any financial move ever could. Over months and years, hesitation becomes habit, and habit becomes a story you tell yourself. Maybe I'm not someone who follows through. That story is where most people lose a decade without noticing. Not through mistakes, but through avoidance. Not through failure, but through silence. Let's uncover the next hidden truth. The choices you postpone become the reality you inhabit. It's easy to think that delaying a decision keeps your options open. But over time, the opposite becomes true. The longer you wait, the fewer paths remain. Every year you postpone a change, whether it's starting a budget, shifting careers, ending a toxic habit, or learning a new skill, you silently shape a future you never consciously chose. Inaction creates a default life, not a bad one, not a dramatic one. Just one that slowly drifts away from who you wanted to become. And here's the part most people don't see until much later. Decisions don't simply expire, they accumulate. The things you postpone stack up emotionally. The discomfort of a choice avoided in your 30s becomes the regret of your 40s and the limitation of your 50s. Not because you lacked potential, but because you ran out of space to grow into it. Delayed decisions come back as consequences, disguised as fate. You begin saying things like, "Life just turned out this way," when in reality, life filled the space you never occupied with action. and that is one of the highest hidden costs any of us can pay. All right, let's dive into the next truth. The emotional burden of dodging the very actions you know are necessary. You see, inaction isn't just a financial pattern, it's an emotional one. Every time you avoid a decision you know you need to make, your mind absorbs a quiet weight. It doesn't feel like a burden at first. It feels like relief. I'll deal with it tomorrow. But the truth is, tomorrow becomes a container where you store every uncomfortable choice, every unfinished step, every avoided responsibility. And over years, that container becomes heavy. This emotional weight shows up in subtle ways. You feel tired even when you've done nothing. You wake up with a sense of being behind, even though nobody is chasing you. You experience bursts of motivation that disappear as fast as they came because the backlog of unmade decisions feels overwhelming. And eventually, you start to believe the weight is a part of you, not a result of what you've avoided. But here's the real cost. That emotional weight steals your clarity. It dims your ambition. It shrinks your capacity to see what's possible. Not because the opportunities aren't there, but because inaction slowly convinces you that you're unprepared to take them. If this message landed at the right time for you, just write "more" below, and I'll know you want more videos in this direction. Now let's continue and uncover the next hidden truth. Most people believe time is neutral, that waiting simply pauses life until they're ready. But time isn't a holding space. It's an active force that transforms every decision you postpone. A delay that seems harmless today can become a barrier 5 years later. Not because the opportunity disappeared, but because you changed in ways you didn't notice. Confidence shifts. Energy shifts. Responsibilities grow. And the window you once had slowly narrows. The cost isn't just missing out on what could have happened. It's losing access to versions of yourself that will never return. The younger you who had fewer fears, fewer doubts, fewer obligations. We often talk about opportunity cost as money lost, but the real opportunity cost is identity lost. You can rebuild skills, savings, and habits, but you can't rebuild time, and you can't easily reconnect with a past version of yourself who was capable of more than you realized. This is why inaction becomes expensive long before you see the consequences. Time keeps moving, shaping your life with or without your permission, and the longer you wait, the more your options harden into limitations. Now let's peel back the next truth. The stories you tell yourself become the limits you live with. Inaction rarely sounds like inaction. Most of the time, it sounds like a reasonable story you tell yourself to avoid discomfort. You say, "It's not the right moment," or "I need to think about it more," or the most subtle one, "Things will get easier soon." These stories feel protective, even responsible, but when repeated long enough, they stop being explanations and become limitations. Here's the danger. Your mind believes whatever you tell it consistently. If you repeat, "I'm not ready," your brain stops looking for ways to prepare. If you repeat, "I'll start later," time loses urgency. If you repeat, "I don't have enough experience," you'll avoid every situation that could give you the experience you claim to lack. The story becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Over a decade, these internal narratives shape a life defined not by what you could do, but by what you continually told yourself you couldn't. Most people don't realize they're living inside a script they unconsciously wrote years ago, one built not on truth but on fear disguised as logic. Changing your life often begins with changing the story you allow to guide it. Let's move forward to the next hidden truth. Clarity ends in action, because you can't change what you can't see. Most people don't stay stuck because they're weak or unmotivated. They stay stuck because they're blind. Inaction thrives in confusion. When you don't clearly see where your money goes, what you owe, what you want, or what actually matters to you, doing nothing feels safer than making the wrong move. And over years, this fog becomes your default state. The truth is, clarity is one of the most powerful antidotes to inaction. When you finally see the real numbers, the real habits, the real patterns, you stop negotiating with excuses. You stop delaying decisions that are long overdue, and you stop believing the stories that kept you small. That's why we're putting together the Trip to Wealth Command Center, made with you in mind. Think of it not as just another spreadsheet, but as a mirror, one that reflects your financial life with clarity, calm, and honesty. When you can visualize your income, spending, net worth, and progress, something shifts inside you. The fog clears, the weight lifts. Action feels obvious instead of overwhelming. Clarity doesn't solve every problem, but it removes the excuse to keep doing nothing. While we finish bringing it to life, you can join the early access waitlist below and lock in an exclusive discount. Let's move on to the next hidden truth. People often imagine that taking action feels bold, dramatic, or courageous, but in reality, action feels surprisingly quiet. What changes first isn't your bank balance, it's your mind. The moment you finally do the thing you've been avoiding, whether it's facing a bill, having a hard conversation, starting a budget, or making a decision you postponed for years, the strongest emotion isn't pride. It's a relief. Relief is the reward inaction steals from you. It's the lightness of knowing you no longer have to carry the question, the weight, or the fear, and that relief becomes a new source of momentum. You realize, often in seconds, that the thing you avoided wasn't nearly as heavy as the avoidance itself. The fear was bigger than the reality. And here's the surprising part. Once you take one step, your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hesitates and start seeing yourself as someone capable of changing their own life. That identity, quiet, grounded, confident, is the foundation of every long-term financial transformation. Action isn't loud, action is freeing. Now let's uncover how to break the cycle of inaction without overwhelming yourself. Because breaking inaction doesn't require a dramatic transformation, it requires direction. The reason most people stay stuck isn't because they're incapable. It's because they believe action must be big to matter. But the opposite is true. The smallest steps create the momentum that changes everything. So let's talk about 3 tools that actually work. The first is micro decisions. When a task feels too big, shrink it. Don't start a budget. Write down one number. Don't fix your finances. Open the app. Don't change your life. Take the next tiny step. Small actions bypass fear. The second is creating time-bound containers. Give a decision 10 minutes. Not a day, not a week. 10 focused minutes. Limiting time reduces overthinking, which is one of the main engines of inaction. The third is identity anchoring. Every action, no matter how small, should be connected to the person you want to become in 10 years. That future version of you is already capable. You're simply building the bridge to meet them. Action doesn't begin with confidence. Action creates confidence. Now let's return to the opening scene, the story of the man we began with. For 10 years, he walked past the same wooden bridge, always promising himself he would cross it when the time was right. Then one morning, the village woke to the sound of celebration on the other side. Travelers had arrived, offering work, sharing ideas, teaching skills the village had never seen before. Their presence transformed the lives of everyone who showed up. But the man wasn't there. He stayed on the familiar path he chose every single day by default. And when he finally gathered the courage to cross the bridge, the travelers were gone. The opportunity wasn't stolen or blocked or taken from him. It simply wasn't reached. Not because he lacked potential, but because he never acted. That's the hidden cost of inaction. It's not just the chances you miss, it's the version of yourself you never get to become. Your next decade is still unwritten, and it begins the moment you take the step you've been delaying. One choice today instead of someday. The moral of the story is simple but life-changing. Opportunities don't disappear because you're unworthy. They disappear because you wait. Inaction quietly becomes a habit, and habits quietly build your future. Every day you delay a decision, you reinforce the version of yourself that stays on the same side of the bridge. Every day you take even a small step, you reinforce the version that grows, evolves, and moves toward the life you're capable of living. The difference between the man who crossed the bridge and the man who didn't wasn't talent, luck, or intelligence. It was movement. Your life will always expand or shrink based on the actions you take, not the intentions you hold. Now let's bring everything together, because the truth is this: your next 10 years will not be shaped by how much you know, but by how consistently you act on what you now understand. Wealth doesn't explode from a single breakthrough. It grows through quiet, repeated decisions that accumulate into a life you no longer recognize. This is the turning point most people miss. Over a decade, discipline compounds into stability, clarity compounds into confidence, and tiny actions compound into identity. You become someone who moves differently, chooses differently, and expects differently. That's the real transformation. When your decisions stop coming from fear, confusion, or comparison, and start coming from intention. This is why the man in the fable mattered. Not because he made one wrong choice, but because he repeated the same small inaction for years, until the opportunity that matched his potential no longer waited. Your next 10 years will not reward perfection. They will reward consistency. They will reward honesty. They will reward motion. Now that you understand the truths that shape a decade, let's return to the story. Because what happened to that man reveals the final, deeper lesson about the price of waiting. Before you go, remember this: financial freedom isn't about speed. It's about clarity, stability, and consistency over time. If you found value in this video, I invite you to subscribe and join our community. People who are rebuilding their relationship with money, one intentional choice at a time. And if you're on your journey to a confident financial life, I highly recommend watching the video that's appearing on your screen now. It's the perfect next step. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to leave your comment below, especially if this video made you think differently. I appreciate your support more than you know. Until next time, stay consistent, stay patient, and stay winning. See you in the next one, Money Magician.